Good evening. Welcome to the On the Box Score episode 7. However you may be listening or watching, it's a big one, a big week 14 in the NFL. We're going to be recapping. We have our Connor and Cole's right or wrong to the week. We have bumper bounce and a little new segment we have for you coming around the corner. Connor Priester across the screen here live from Tonawanda, New York. I'm in Cole Johnson and Murrieta, California. Connor, big week. I'm really excited for this one. Packed-filled show.
This is probably the most intense and jam-packed, like you said, that we've had a Tuesday show in quite some time. I mean, the season's kind of winding down now, so there's getting to be a lot more that we can kind of dissect and really go in and talk about from, individual matchups, looking at how divisions are going to wrap up, kind of individual storylines that even potentially lead up into next season. So I'm ready to go. I'm fired up.
Yeah, you could argue. Last week, I feel like last week had a lot more headlines, a lot of closer and tight games last week. This week is still important, though, like you said, a few weeks away from the playoffs. But like always, let's shift it right to the beginning. Let's get this thing rolling. Our Star Spangled Banter. Connor, you go first.
How about them Bills? That's how I'm going to start this show. I'm getting off on the right foot. I'm not going to go too in-depth yet because, like we said, we got a jam-packed show. Going to kind of dissect how the game turned out Sunday night in our Homer section. But it's time to stop doubting. I always say I'm a realist. I don't get too high, I don't get too low. I'm not an optimist, I'm not a pessimist. But I can tell you for a fact right now it's time to stop doubting. And it's time to start believing that Buffalo is a legit force in not just the AFC, folks, not just the AFC, but in the entire NFL. And so I'm going to start because I know it's going to sound a little contradicting because I don't think the Steelers are a great team. And we're going to get into that much, much later too. They're a good team, yes, but they're a paper warrior. The record shows that they should be better, but they beat the Steelers. They beat the 49ers. 7 wins against teams that are above 500. What more do you need? All right. If this was happening with a different team, and this is where where my rant's going to kind of start. I firmly believe that if this wasn't the Buffalo Bills, the exact same schedule, the exact same outcome, if this was happening with a different team, a different quarterback, all of the national media will be drooling over the fact that there's a new dominant team in the NFL. But because Buffalo has been a meme for the last 25 years, and Josh Allen was supposed to be a failure of a 7th overall pick, they moved up to get him a dumb pick. They're not a team that people can get behind, like your Chiefs of the world, the Pats, the Packers, the Cowboys, the Seahawks. That is why no one, I think, really is just really trusting the Bills and picking them to be down. I mean, I know there's some people that are, but then there's still those same exact critics saying that Josh Allen isn't even a top 5 quarterback. He's not a team that's going to go out there and win you games or even potentially get you deep in the playoffs, maybe even the Super Bowl. But hell, people, if you don't fully believe, you got to believe. This is the first time in over 2 decades that they're closing in a division title. The team is built for the playoffs. Can they beat Kansas City? That is a question that everyone is asking now that are kind of starting to buy into Buffalo. Can they beat Kansas City? Yes. Did they this year in their previous matchup? No. It was a bad game. I'm not making excuses. The Bills are banged up. It was actually a bad game for both sides. Kansas City didn't look like Kansas City. The Bills defense did a decent job, but they kind of fell apart later in the game. But I will say right now, the Bills are the only team in the NFL that can beat Mahomes, Reed, and the Chiefs.
Okay. I mean, here's the thing. I'm all in on the Bills too. And I think right now, if the Chiefs and Bills were to play today, I think the Bills have the upper hand. And it's based off the last few weeks. Between their last quarter takeaways, timely turnovers, and just the way Josh Allen has been playing and leading this team, I'm completely on board with you, Connor. I think it's a shame that people aren't on board.
110%.
This is you and I both know this is the best Bills team I have seen since I've ever started watching football.
It's the best Bills team in my lifetime.
Exactly. It's not even close. This is a good football team. They're doing everything right now. And just the fact that Josh Allen is not getting enough respect, I think Josh Allen right now is a top tier quarterback. And so that's going to be interesting moving forward. I think really right now, Connor, as we talked before, is just the fact that they got to get a playoff win. They got to build. They got
especially after beating the Steelers.
Yeah, I think a lost season. I think it's a win if you can get at least to the AFC title game. So It's definitely something to look forward to. And, I'm rooting for the Bills, man. I got your back. I
Thanks,
got
Cole.
You're welcome. um, so let's shift to this one. Another team that's kind of been shocking the AFC this year in different ways. Last night, if you didn't watch a prolific Monday Night Football game, one of the best I think I've ever seen. A lot of people saying it, just a Monday Night Football classic, and it featured two AFC North teams, games that are typically, low scoring, very physical. And this was a shootout, a 45-42 win for the Ravens, game-winning field goal, and that's that. Ended up 47-42. I keep forgetting there's a safety after the backyard shenanigans the Browns tried to pull and ended up with a safety. But there's a lot going on in that game last night, and it was huge. Browns had a lot of pressure on their back, people doubting them because they were going into a primetime game with a 9-3 record. Baltimore's coming back from COVID outbreaks. Lamar Jackson's back. This was a perfect week for the Browns to crumble on national television. But there's something that came on the broadcast last night that they talked about, Connor, and it was after talking to head coach Kevin Stefanski about his motto and the way he's leading these guys right now. And one of their things this year is the 4 H's: history, heartbreak, heroes, and hope. So we'll start with this. History. This is a chance for Cleveland to rewrite the history of Cleveland football. It would be an understatement to say that this has been a train wreck for decades. Haven't won a playoff game since 1994. Haven't made the playoffs since 2002. Haven't had a winning season since 2007. And that was Romeo Crennel was the head coach and Derek Anderson was the quarterback. And they finished last in the AFC North 13 times since 2003, including 7 straight from 2011 to 2017. These are just the facts. They've had 13 different head coaches since 2000. They've had 15 different quarterbacks since 2000. The first time they've had a starting quarterback now in Baker Mayfield for 3 or more years since Tim Couch from 1999 to 2002. Again, these are just the facts. But it's top 5 picks over and over again. Fans with bags on their head. A team where fans were rioting and breaking open coolers after one Thursday night win a couple years ago. That is the history of Cleveland football. Let's move on to heartbreak. You could argue there hasn't been much heartbreak, Connor, due to the complete incompetence from the front office, coaching staff. That's why they've been rolling through guys year in and year out. It's expected that the Browns are going to finish in the bottom of the NFL, the bottom feeders. You could say last night would be one of those heartbreak losses. That's crazy to say that in a Week 14 Monday night game that's one of your signature heartbreak losses. That's not a good thing because you're a couple plays away from being at 10-3 and locking a playoff spot. Let's go on to heroes. Who is a hero in this organization? You get crickets. I can tell you there's not many. It's simple. Kevin Stefanski is looking for heroes to turn this thing around, turn Cleveland around, turn around Browns football. Like, who are you going to look back at being a hero? Bill Belichick, who's the last head coach to get you a playoff win in 1994? Marty Schottenheimer from the mid-'80s, who got you 3 straight winning seasons and a handful of playoff wins. You can go there, but it's not relevant. And this is where we go into hope. I think is the biggest one of the 4. All you can ask for is some hope, something to hold on to. It seems like a really minuscule detail, but with a franchise like this, it means everything. Stefanski's trying to regain trust and hope and a little sense of urgency, a hope that a team can build and go on and erase all the bags on the heads and years of doubt in that city. Hey, LeBron came in and won a title for the Cavs, for the city. The Indians had a several-year run, a rain delay and a few outs away from a title in baseball, trying to end a drought. At least fans were excited, and they still are for Cleveland and for both, for the Cavs and Indians, more so for the Indians. You need people to be excited for your franchise. So I love this. I love the 4 H's. Give your team something to play for other than a battle for a third-place spot in the AFC North. Last night, I think you can say what you want. They still lost the game, but last night was a turning point. Cole, you already said there's no such thing as a bad loss. I'm not saying it's a bad loss, but last night on national television with the entire world doubting them, Cleveland looked like a football team. And yes, they did last week after putting it on the Tennessee Titans. But this week mattered because it's a matter of, can you continue that success and put it on stage on Monday Night Football in front of the whole country? And they did. They didn't win the football game, but they did what they had to do to put themselves in position. When they go down by 2 scores, everyone's laughing, saying, "Here comes the same old Browns." They hung in there, had a couple impressive drives, and they just fell victim to Lamar Jackson playing like a video game and one of the best kickers to ever play the game. The nail in the coffin from Justin Tucker from 55 yards. If he misses that overtime, anything can happen. This team is a few draft picks away on defense from claiming an NFC North title. They're still 9-4. They have a solid shot at one of the 3 wild card spots. This is a team that can win a playoff game. You can't tell me they can't win a playoff game just because of last night's loss. I'm telling you, if they play the Ravens again in the playoffs, they're winning that football game. 3rd time's a charm. It was an incredible football game. It was great for the NFL. The 4 H's. Great thing to grasp onto and turn this thing around in Cleveland, Connor.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think that what they're doing in Cleveland right now is Stefanski. I mean, if you can create something as a coach that you can get your players to believe in, have them get behind something that's more than just, playing for the wins and losses. I mean, that really is going to change just the culture in the locker room and build that camaraderie. So that's real great for them. I mean, I just think across the board too, they're the more talented football team from top to bottom. I mean, I know Lamar Jackson is an MVP in the league, but I mean, I think with everything else that's around Baker Mayfield, like on the offensive side, I mean, even and then on defense, I think they're the much talented team from top to bottom. And the only thing that, again, I can compare Cleveland and Buffalo very similar, Cole. It's like they've had the same exact kind of fortune for the last 20 some years. Just revolving door of coaches, quarterbacks, etc. List goes on and on and on. But I'm starting to believe in them now too, and like it's hard for people across the league to believe in the teams that were so bad for so long. But I mean, I think they got it now.
Yeah, it's. I was just gonna say that, Connor. It's something like some organizations we've seen, like the Bills, the Dolphins, who've had their down years, but they built something that's worth fighting for. And now it puts them in a position where they're going to be in the playoffs this year. That's what Cleveland's doing. I think it's really important that those 4 H's. That's a great motto. I think it's something to really build off of. But let's shift to this, Connor.
Something with the
Top
H's.
story. What? What's that?
Something with the H's because Sean McDermott says humble and hungry.
There we go. Good letter to use, apparently. But
apparently, all right. Run us through the top storylines, Cole.
all right, here we go. Top storylines from Week 14, a Monday Night Football game classic. Just talked about it. Baltimore takes down Cleveland, 47-42, with that safety at the end there. That I'm sure actually probably upset a lot of people who probably took the Browns +4. There's a lot of people freaking out over that. Shootout in the dog pound. That puts Baltimore back in the playoff picture. That's going to be a very interesting AFC. I'm very excited for that. Number 2, Buffalo unrobes Pittsburgh. I know, Connor, you like this title. Buffalo improves to 10-3. Pittsburgh drops 2 straight after the 11-0 start. That all being shown on national television, Sunday Night Football. A lot of people jumping on the Bills train right now. Number 3, the Washington Warriors. They don't have a name. I'm giving them one for the week.
I like the name. I told you before the show I was a big fan of what you did there because they need a name. If they're going to be playing like this, they need a name.
Let's get the Warriors. I'm all on board for the Warriors. Washington wins its 4th straight, taking down San Francisco with 2 defensive scores. Chase Young is a beast, ran up from the return back, outran everyone on the field, and a pick 6 that kind of sealed it. Number 4, Jalen Hurts stuns New Orleans in his first career start. New Orleans went into the game as the 1 seed in the NFC, but no longer. Philadelphia ends their 4-game skid after benching Carson Wentz in favor of Jalen Hurts, and they beat the top seed in the NFC. On to 5, the Seattle bounces back. Now, Seattle lost that game to Giants. Everyone went crazy, overreacted. What's happening to the Seahawks? Well, they came out, and yes, it was an 0-12 New York Jets team, but they thumped them 40-3. That game was over in the first quarter, showing what they can do. Despite it being an 0-12 team, they still played very good football. It could be dangerous. Number 6, Giants come back down to earth. Something I expected, didn't want to say it out loud. Daniel Jones returns after being injured, but Arizona was after him all game, forces 3 turnovers. There's 8 sacks, and it ends a 3-game losing streak for Arizona, and it ends a 3-game winning streak for the Giants. And then seventh, speaking of those losing streaks, Connor, it ends for 7 teams: Philadelphia, Arizona, Denver, the Chargers, Dallas, Tampa Bay, and Chicago all end losing streaks, trying to get back up on that winning page. A couple of them very big wins for their playoff hopes. But let's go back to these in order, Connor. Number 1, that Monday Night Football game. We've talked about it a little bit, but I know you said before the show started, it's unbelievable how a team can put up 45 points and win a game, 47 points and win a game when your quarterback has almost as much rushing yards as passing yards.
And that's the thing that I'm going to get into when we do our new segment. I don't trust it. I've talked about all year the inability for Lamar Jackson to be able to throw the ball effectively. I know that when you run the ball like that, necessarily you don't need to be able to pass the ball a lot. But I think if you want to be a playoff team and if you want to make noise in the playoffs, you need to know how to pass the football. And to me, it was just more of a miracle that they won the game last night.
Yeah, and I do have to argue a little bit here, because last night, I understand your point, and the criticism of Lamar Jackson for the last 2.5 years has been he can't throw the football, he can't win games through the air. But after watching last night, for Lamar Jackson, who was out with COVID, had only 1 practice last week and beat the Cowboys, comes out and he had some very good throws, and he was a hero at the end. And it's something where on that go-ahead touchdown at the end last night, on a 4th and 5, Cleveland came in with an all-out blitz, and he ran right around, and they're expecting him to run. So a couple of defenders come up, and he tosses one to a wide-open Hollywood Brown. That's the stuff that's going to improve that offense, because you have a guy who everyone knows can run. So if you step up on him, play schemes towards him running the football, if he can still throw it, they're going to be dangerous. So I understand where you're saying. I think we still need to give him a little more time. The man's 23 years old, already has an MVP.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be a hater. I mean, the kid has unbelievable talent.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I mean, you look at how Baker and Josh Allen have made progression as a passer. I mean, Josh Allen was getting comparisons almost to being a slower, stockier Lamar Jackson, because his first 2 years, he was just thinking that he was only running the football. And we kind of see the difference now where, Allen is taking steps as a passer and has completely elevated that Bills offense. I just think that if Lamar can take that step to kind of become more of a passer, because also there's not a future in the league running the ball that much like that. I mean, you're going to get banged up at some point, especially as your body gets older, as you get older and body gets, it breaks down a little bit more. And I mean, if he wants to play for, 12, 13 years or more, like he's not going to be able to keep running the ball like that.
Yeah, so it's something we got to keep an eye on. It could either elevate that team or hurt them, but they're back in the playoff picture. Could be interesting if they get in. On to number 2. You've already touched on it a lot. We talked about Buffalo beating Pittsburgh. I don't know what more else we have to say other than I think the Bills are real.
I'll talk about it a little bit more. I'll kind of break the game down a little bit. Not too much, just a little bit. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but in our homer section. But it was just a good win. I mean, the Bills have really been starting to put together a full 60 minutes of football recently, especially on both sides of the ball. It's really good to see, and it's just they're legit. That's it. They're legit.
They're legit. That's it. Number 3, Washington Warriors, 4 straight wins. They've kind of shocked everyone, especially with that Thanksgiving blowout in Dallas and then beating Pittsburgh last week. And they take care of business again against San Francisco, who is more healthy than they have been in the past, despite obviously Nick Mullins still being a quarterback over Jimmy G. But they are now at the top of the NFC East, Connor, at 6-7.
I don't know how it happened, but I think all I know is that Alex Smith should have been the quarterback all year. I mean, it kind of got a little shaky after he went down, and I actually haven't read up on it. I hope he's doing all right. I know it was a calf soreness. But I mean, it kind of showed that offense is really flowing through with Alex Smith. I mean, they did that without Antonio Gibson the other day too. Mm-hmm. So I mean, that defense is also for a 6-7 team. I mean, that defense is starting to look pretty legit, Cole. I mean, like you said, Chase Young, that dude's an animal, an absolute beast on that line. So I mean, it's gonna be fun. I mean, especially now that the Giants. I know you're gonna touch on it a little bit later. I mean, Washington has a chance. Maybe they can run away with it.
It's close. I mean, their front seven they're beasts up there, and that's what can win you football games down in the trenches, even if you're the underdog. So we'll see with that. On to Jalen Hurts and his first career win in the NFL and his first start in the NFL. I'm going to get more into this in a little bit, but Philly ends its 4-game losing streak, and now New Orleans is going to be in a battle with Green Bay for that top spot.
Yeah, New Orleans just played a bad game, honestly. And also the other thing too is it seemed as if I know it's going to sound hilarious, but it seemed as if Philly just played much better than they ever did with Carson Wentz under center this year. Wide receivers were getting open, making plays. Both sides of the ball on the line were playing great. Defense kind of did its job, and it was just like something you didn't see with Carson Wentz under center.
Yeah, and I'm going to get into it. I'm going to end this show.
That's all they needed. Maybe Carson Wentz under center just changes the whole dynamic. I don't know. I saw him as a good dude.
Yeah, I'm just going to front my last call here. He's unique. It may have worked this week. All the role players were playing well. Zach Ertz was back, but unique only lasts for so long in the NFL. We'll get to that in a little bit. Next one, Seattle bounces back, beating the Jets 40-3. I never gave up on Seattle. The loss of the Giants was a tough one for them, but they're still right there in the NFC West and a very good division there. I mean, they're still going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, they're still going to make the playoffs, but I mean, I wouldn't be jumping out of my seat right now just because they beat the Jets 40-3. I mean, if you're Seattle, I mean, you expect that. If you're Pete Carroll, I mean, I probably would assume anything, winning by anything less than 20 was going to be unacceptable.
And then Giants come back down to earth after their win against Seattle. Daniel Jones comes back from injury. Arizona's defense came after the Giants. I think the offensive line was completely lost. I'll get into that in homer time. But Giants lose, now second in the NFC East. And Arizona, maybe this is their spark to get back into the playoff picture.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're going to touch on it a little bit too in your homer time. But to me, watching some of that game, there's no way in hell that Daniel Jones was completely healthy. He did not look comfortable in the pocket. He did not look comfortable moving around. That he did show, some bright spots this season. It just looked like that they weren't there. He didn't look like himself. Maybe they rushed him back a little too soon. But I mean, when it's crunch time, getting towards the end of the year, I mean, sometimes you gotta do that. You gotta rush your quarterback back. But I don't know. To me, it seemed like it could have been worse for them. Could have been a terrible outcome if he hurt himself again.
Yeah. Well, the Giants' 3-game winning streak comes to an end, and Arizona joins a list of 6 other teams that end their losing streak this week. Philly, Arizona, as I said, Denver. The Chargers finally win a close game. Dallas wins a game. Tampa Bay, after losing 2 games going into the bye, they came off the bye week. Don't look incredibly good off a bye, but they still win the game. Got some help as well. We'll talk about – I know you're going to talk about that. And then Chicago, after losing 6 straight, finally gets back on the board after beating Houston. So some teams mixing it up a little bit this week.
Yeah, and I'm excited to get into our new segment because there's a couple things that we kind of had a little bit of disagreements on some stuff, but I want to let you start. I want you to run through your list, and then I'll run through my list.
All right, you want me to start? This is something we added in just this week, and we're gonna call it the Elite 10. This is the Week 14 Elite 10, and remember, I know I am. I think Connor maybe too. We're basing this off of just this week. It's not a long-term thing right now. It's based off what's happened this week and the previous weeks. We'll start with this. At number 10, I have to throw Cleveland in there. I just gave them a lot of praise for finally looking like a football team. There's a couple teams right on the outside. I'll mention my honorable mentions at the end that I really wanted in there. But at the end of the day, after that performance last night, Cleveland's a team that can win a playoff game. And even though they lost to Baltimore last night, Connor, if they play again in the playoffs, I'm taking Cleveland. Number 9, I got to go with Tennessee. Um, they're such a physical football team. We saw them get pounced by Cleveland last week, and that was mainly because they sold out on the run, and Baker Mayfield and that offense beat them over the top. Um, and then they had some resurgence in the second half and made it a football game again. If they can, you know, or if they're able to get Ryan Tannehill out of the pocket and make throws and give them short distances where they can just let Derrick Henry go to work, and that front seven works on the defensive side, this is a very dangerous football team that we could once again make its way to the AFC title game like they did last year. And after the 31-10 win this week, I know it was over Jacksonville, but they look like another top team in the AFC once again. Number 8, dropping way down on my list, it's got to be the Pittsburgh Steelers. After these last two performances, Connor, I think you're on the same page with me here. This is just not an 11-2 football team. That's just the fact of the matter, is that on paper they're 11-2, but if you look at their schedule, there's a reason they're 11-2, and they have completely abandoned the run game. They go 5 wide and a single shotgun with Big Ben, who can't move around anymore. They're predictable. They have receivers dropping passes. This is a team that could very well lose in the first round of the playoffs. I would not be shocked if they did. I think they, and this is where I go down the list here. Every team in front of another team is who I think would beat them that week. So I think Tennessee would beat Cleveland. I think Pittsburgh would beat Tennessee possibly. And in number 7, I got Indianapolis. I think Indianapolis right now would beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, who they play in 2 weeks. Or is it next week? It's either next week or in 2 weeks. Indianapolis plays Pittsburgh, and I think Indy wins that football game. They're much more aggressive on defense and offense. That offensive line is stacked, and they paved the way for Jonathan Taylor and Nakeem Hines. They just ran roughshod over the Las Vegas Raiders this past weekend. They looked very good. That's the kind of football team that's going to win in the playoffs. They might not. They might be boring. They're not over the top and all crazy talented, but they're going to win a football game in the playoffs. Number 6, I know you're not going to like this. I bumped Seattle up a little bit. Just bouncing back from a loss like that and beating up on a team that bad, regardless if it was the Jets or not, you see some fight. It's still Russell Wilson. I'm never going to doubt Russell Wilson. I will take him in a playoff game over almost any other quarterback in this league. With DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and now Chris Carson back, if they can establish the run game. You got a defense that finally got their pass rushers that they needed up front. They got Jamal Adams playing a lot better now, coming in and making sacks, tackles for losses. I got Seattle still hanging around there. Number 5, though, I think LA Rams would beat Seattle today. I'm going to mention it in a little bit, but the Rams, I've been on them for a while. I think they are the same team they were a couple years ago, minus Todd Gurley, but they've replaced them with some more good running. They have a great defense. I think LA Rams are one of the most dangerous teams to look out for in the playoffs, but I think they may lose to the New Orleans Saints, who I have at number 4. Last week was a fluke. They had to play a rookie quarterback who they don't have film on. They were flat-footed. It was like an uncertain defensive game plan because they had no clue what Jalen Hurts was going to bring out. And finally, teams caught up to Taysom Hill. They're going to knock him down. They gave him pressure. He was kind of lost. He just wasn't able to play the game he did the previous 3 weeks because now he's unique. People have caught up to him, and I think they really do need Drew Brees back at this point in time. When they do, they can let Taysom Hill be in his element, make plays at his 3 different positions he plays. I think New Orleans is still a top team in the NFC. Right now, I have number 3, Green Bay, Connor. I think that dynamic duo between Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams is an all-time duo. It's nasty. They're going to hook up no matter what. You can put 3 guys on them. They're still going to connect. It could be a downfall for them moving forward. I'm concerned about their physicality. I talked about it a few weeks ago. When they come face-to-face with a good team, they kind of get outplayed in terms of in the trenches and being physical. That's the one thing I have against them. But right now, I think they would beat New Orleans if they played today. And then number 2, this was tough. I so badly, Connor, wanted to put Buffalo at number 1 because in the last 3 weeks, Buffalo is the best team in the league. If it weren't for the Hail Mary against Arizona, they've won 7 straight. This team gets it done. We've already talked about it. I'm not going to go much further other than putting Kansas City at number 1. I just can't do it. They haven't looked that good. They did not look good against Miami, other than the fact that they went down 10-0 the way we thought the game would go, and then they explode for 30 points.
Right.
And that's the team they are. They play better when they're behind by double digits. They did it 3 times in the playoffs last year to win a Super Bowl. It's just I just don't think you can touch it. I think if Kansas City and Buffalo play today, I may have to take Buffalo. It kind of contradicts my list, but at the end of the day, I just don't see anyone matching up with that Kansas City offense. So there's my Elite 10: Cleveland, Tennessee, Pittsburgh, Indianapolis, Seattle, Rams, New Orleans, Green Bay, Buffalo, Kansas City. I feel like we probably agree on a lot of fronts. We may have a few disagreements.
Yeah, we agree on a lot of it. Couple minor disagreements. So I'm going to go with mine. Just going to spew it out. Number 10. I'm actually taking the Baltimore Ravens. I know it's completely contradictory or like contradicts everything that I've kind of talked about, but I don't like the Ravens that much. I don't think they're a good team. They're not a great team, but if they lost last night, they probably wouldn't be in my top 10. But since we're going week to week, I'm throwing in my top 10. They got the job done. It's a really good Cleveland team. But what holds them back, and I already talked about it, is it's going to sound hilarious again. It's just Lamar Jackson. He's only going to beat you on the ground. He'll run for 100, but only throw for 100. The defense kind of sketches me out a little bit. I don't see them as a threat to really any of the other teams that are in this list. And straight up, I think they just, like I said, I think they just kind of got lucky last night. Moving on to my number 9, dropping all the way down from where I would have had them originally, even though that I thought they were a paper warrior. The Pittsburgh Steelers. They're not an 11-2 team. Yeah, they're banged up. Yeah, they've had problems offensively, but the problem is the run game and you already mentioned, and a lot of this stuff is just going to be everything that we've talked about recently. But the defense is the reason why they're up here. I mean, we saw firsthand on national TV the other night why their defense is so good. It's because they can get to the passer. They can just get through the line, get tackles for loss, and they're just nasty up front. Like, it starts with TJ Watt, and then it goes to the interior linemen, and they're just nasty. But when that defense is on the field the whole entire game, you can't keep expecting results. But I still think that, they're still going to be a contender just because of that defense. Moving on, number 8. I have the Cleveland Browns, number 8. I do believe that the Browns could beat the Steelers if they play today. And we're going to see week 17. It's Browns versus Steelers. That game could mean something. The loss to Baltimore was tough, but I already mentioned it. The team is a lot more talented in all aspects of the game than Baltimore. It's tough to contain Lamar when he runs like that, but Baker has taken huge strides. The combo of Chubb and Hunt is lethal. I like them better than Baltimore still after that loss. Number 7, bumped down a little bit from where I would normally have them because of that loss this past week, but the New Orleans Saints. But one bad week against a rookie quarterback, it doesn't really faze me with the Saints. The defense played much lower to what they should have been. And to me, I'm going to disagree with that. I thought Taysom Hill played a really good game. He had one bad mistake with an interception, and it led to a loss. Taysom Hill was forced to kind of throw the ball a little bit more than he had to all year. And I thought he did a pretty decent job. For who he is and what his role on that team. He was throwing balls downfield where he was giving his guys, on one-on-one coverage, giving them a chance to make a play, or even throwing up trying to look for a PI. But Breeze is going to be back soon, maybe. Even if they lose to Kansas City this week, I still think they have a really good shot at winning the division. Moving on. Number 6, the Tennessee Titans. Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry runs this team, runs the offense. He makes everyone else on that offense better when he's doing well. Opens up holes for the passing game, which is kind of funny because we kind of talk about it the other way. The passing game opens up the run game. But then when Derrick Henry runs the ball, it opens up so many more holes where Ryan Tannehill, it takes pressure off him. Quick hitters, opens up stuff across the middle. The defense hasn't been playing as shutdown as they have been maybe last year, earlier in the year, especially because of that game against Cleveland. But it was a good bounce back this week. And I think that they beat the Saints, Browns, Steelers, Ravens. Easy. Next, and then this is, again, I did this list, Cole, and I was going through it, really just kind of thinking about it and just thinking about what we've been talking about in the last couple of weeks. And I remember when I bounced the Indianapolis Colts, and I was down on them for a while. But here's why I have them number 5. T.Y. Hilton came back, and he has just exploded on offense and has made a great connection now with Phillip Rivers. To me, he honestly kind of turned around this offense, especially now that Jonathan Taylor is kind of coming into his shell as well. T.Y. Hilton, multiple touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor, big week this week. But I really just don't trust Rivers that much, and that's the one thing that kind of holds me back from really believing in the Colts. But that defense is legit, and that's really what's kind of carrying them. And I think they beat everyone else previously on this list, except for the remaining teams, being the number 4 LA Rams. The Rams are playing excellent football right now. They are one of the best teams in the NFL right now. All phases of the game, they are dominating. Offense has been rolling, and the one thing that me and you always talked about is what always held back the Rams was consistency. If they can remain consistent, they're a legit Super Bowl contender. If they stay hot, they could compete for a Super Bowl. And this team is just firing on all cylinders right now. That defense is one of the most talented from top to bottom on the defensive side of the ball in all the NFL. So, I mean, even on the offensive side, I mean, so much talent, but when they're putting it together, they're one of the best teams in football. Number 3, Green Bay Packers. This is where we agree. We agree on the same. I'm just going to spoil it. We agree on the top 3. All right. I think a lot of people will. It was so hard for me. I didn't want to have the biased opinion. So Bills are 2 for me. But it's tough. It's super, super tough because I do think that the Bills could beat the Chiefs. I'm not 110% confident in it, but I'm 110% confident that the Bills would give the Chiefs the best run for their money right now. And I think that if you don't see that it's I can't convince you because the Bills have done everything. The Chiefs are just the thing that kind of separates it for me. What makes the Chiefs go over the top on offense is that they can hit the home run ball whenever they want. That's what still scares me about the Chiefs. But so I got Green Bay 3, Buffalo 2, Chiefs number 1.
I like your top 3.
Yeah,
Out there, but I think I think with the Chiefs though, you said they can go over the top at any moment, hit the home run ball. In the playoffs, I think it's going to be a little different because everyone knows what they are, and you're going to be going against the best defenses and the best coaches. That's going to be tougher for them to do that, and when they can't score in the red zone, which they haven't been able to, they've been getting they got a 1st and 10. First and goal at the 9 yard line, they're settling for field goals. The last couple of games, the Bills have been punching it in. There's where the difference is. Where I really badly wanted to put the Bills at 1. It's tough. It's really interesting to look at it week to week. I think we should do this again next week and see where we're at next week and see what changes, see what teams jump in, fall behind, and that's actually what brings me to. I wanted to give my honorable mentions. I forgot about this, Connor. I really want Baltimore in there. I was going to put them at 10. I forgot about the Rams for a minute, which is upsetting because I've been high on them for the last several weeks. So I had to bump things back. It bumped them out. I also wanted to throw Washington in there. Based off the last 4 weeks, Washington is one of the best defenses, and they've been playing good football. You don't win 4 games straight for no reason.
Yeah.
So Washington and Baltimore right on the cusp of being in the Elite 10 for me. With that being said, Connor, let's jump to Heroes of the Week. These are the guys who made a difference in the game, a big difference, turned the game around, and I wouldn't expect anything other from you, but for your first Hero of the Week to possibly be a Buffalo Bill.
It is a Buffalo Bill, and this play literally turned this game upside down. Taron Johnson picked 6 towards the end of the first half, completely swung momentum in favor of Buffalo. The way he jumped the route, kept his eyes on Big Ben, knew the quick hitter was coming, jumped the route, paid her, pick 6. What do you got for your first hero?
All right, so I only had 2. I had to throw in a third one after last night, but I'm going to stick with the first one I had was I got to put Chase Young in. He had the 47-yard scoop and score 1 minute before the end of the first half for San Francisco. That was the turning point. They were down in that game, gave him the lead, and they never looked back. He picked it up like a machine. He almost ripped it out one of his own teammates' hands and just looped around everyone who was all muddled up on the ground, and he outruns everybody on the field. He's 6'5" and 264 pounds, and he was outrunning everyone on that field. He's a monster, can outrun everyone else, and he turned the momentum towards Washington, and he carried the rest of the way. They now lead the NFC East. That's a Hero of the Week for me.
Give me your second one because I only got 2.
All right, my second one. It's more of a joke.
Hey, so
this guy. I've loved this guy for a long time. I think he's been put in a lot of bad situations, so I'm not making too much of a joke out of this. I feel bad for him, but Matt Ryan, he, the, the Chargers and Falcons game, it was just a rough game, and especially they were trading away chances to win the game. No one wanted to win. Matt Ryan throws 2 picks in the final 3:52 of a 17-17 game. Both had chances to win. Both drives would have won the game. Throws a pick. The Chargers get good field position. Herbert throws a pick. Falcons get it back, and Matt Ryan throws yet another pick with like 50 seconds left. Chargers go on and win the game in the field goal. So Matt Ryan just sustains Atlanta as the team who can never win a close game, and it gives the Chargers a pass for finally winning a close game and getting off that Atlanta list.
You know what, Cole? You just made me think of a third hero, but first I'm going to give you my second.
All right.
Dan Bailey. Not for Minnesota, but Dan Bailey played hero for Tampa. He missed every single kick on Sunday. 0 for 3 on field goals, 0 for 1 on extra points. Does anybody know if he's doing okay? That's what I want to know.
Dude, he's got the yips. I told you. He has the yips. This man was like 7th or 8th all time in field goal percentage, like coming into this season. You don't just lose that out of nowhere.
Yeah.
The man, he's at an all-time low in confidence. I've never seen a guy walk off the field after that, like his third missed kick that I've seen in the NFL. He looked like he was gonna go just fall into a hole. Like
I told you the other day too when we were talking. If you doubled the width of the goalpost, or if you lined up another set of goalposts next to the right post, he still wouldn't have put it in. He was shaking everything, and Tampa could say thanks because if he makes those kicks, it's a whole different ball game. And now I'm going to stick with the kickers because what you brought up, the Money Badger finally did it.
Finally.
Michael Badgley finally makes a big kick, and the Chargers can just almost forget about all the close losses because they finally got one.
So that's 2 weeks.
That's
2 weeks in a row, Connor, that Dan Bailey and Badgley have been on our Heroes of the Week list.
Something's got to change. I mean, the Money Badger is finally starting to live up to his name a little bit. Once again, whoever gave him that nickname, I would like to have a word. But it's good to see Badgley finally hit a big kick. Dan Bailey, you just got to figure it out, my guy. You need to figure it out.
You got to get rid of those yips. All right, my last hero of the week. This is a serious one. This isn't a joke. Lamar Jackson. He left the game for cramps in the fourth quarter.
He
ran all over Cleveland all night long. And then he's in the locker room, and Trace McSorley comes in as the only other quarterback on the active roster because RG3 is injured. McSorley comes in, completely twists his knee, goes the wrong way, falls down. He's out of the game. It's 4th and 5. The game's on the line. If they don't get it, it's over because Cleveland just runs the clock out and kneels it. Game over. Like a superhero, Lamar Jackson comes running out of the locker room, just puts his helmet on. He jumps out there, and they run a 4th and 5 play. I said it earlier, Cleveland with an all-out blitz. He runs to the right. Everyone thinking, he's just going to run for the first down and slide down. And then he just throws it, and Marquise Brown is wide open, touchdown, gives him the lead. And then he makes another game-winning drive because Cleveland matched it with a Kareem Hunt touchdown, and then he drove them back down the field again, hooked up with, I think, Mark Andrews like 3 times on the drive, and then Justin Tucker took care of it. So hero of the week, Lamar Jackson, getting Baltimore back in the playoff picture. If they lose, that was like a do or die game for Baltimore. So heroes of the week presented by Beyond the Box Score.
Looking for a sponsor. Someone give us a call.
A sponsor. It's like, I know James Mizarcola said we need a sponsor. He told us that last week. We'll listen to him.
James Mizarcola is also blowing up the chat box right now.
Oh, is he?
He's going at it with Paul about something, Mr. Paul Barker.
Oh. We're arguing about. We'll get to that in a moment. Let's go to our bumper bounce, Connor. Let's make this quick. We got a lot more to get through still. Who are you bumping for a team?
So I am bumping the Miami Dolphins. I'm not big on moral victory or good losses, but this is one. I mean, they went toe to toe with the NFL's best. Everything that we kind of talked about, that the way that you take down the Chiefs, forcing turnovers, getting takeaways, they did that. This is my bold take. I truly thought that they could have won this game, and personally, if they had Ryan Fitzpatrick under center, I think they win this game. To me, Tua isn't a great passer yet. He's got a decent arm, but he's not going to beat the Chiefs. I think Fitz gives you a better option as a passer. Tua can do more with his legs, yes, but he also took a really bad safety, a couple mistakes, crippled Miami, and gave KC even more momentum.
Here's my one argument on that, Connor. It's going to be quick. Yes, Tua is not there yet where he's going to go over the top and beat the Chiefs and win a shootout, but what made that game close is he takes care of the football. He doesn't turn the football over. So when the Miami defense gets a couple turnovers, he keeps you in that game. I don't know. Fitzpatrick I love him, but
we'll never know, and that's the terrible part. But I mean,
forces a couple turnovers, then that game they might have not even had a chance to come back. So I don't know. 50-50 there. Who are you bouncing?
I am bouncing the Raiders. They're shot. I think it honestly might have been a panic button move firing the defensive coordinator, because honestly they were pretty solid in the earlier in the year. They had a couple bad weeks and they just fired their DC. I mean, I don't like it. Yeah, they're playing bad, but I mean, word on the street was there was drama between a bunch of the defensive coaches and Gruden, which led to the firing. But it's just a typical Gruden start: get hot, fall off, season's over.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you there. I'm just gonna spoil it now. I'm bouncing Vegas, but who do you got for your other? It looks like you got a couple more.
Yeah, I mean, I'm bumping the Buffalo Bills again. I mean, what more do you want me to say?
I don't think there is. You still got.
I'm bumping the Bills, and I am bouncing the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, what more do you want me to say? I got some stuff written up here, but I don't want to go too in depth with it.
Okay. All right, my turn.
Go for it.
So I'm bumping the Colts. They showed that having a great and healthy offensive line is essential in the NFL at the end of the year, especially. If you have a healthy offensive line, that's going to carry you far. When you also have a healthy front seven on the defense, that's going to get you far. There's been several teams in history where they're not flashy. They're not a team that you're excited to watch. You're not gonna see them on Sunday and Monday Night Football every week. They get the job done when they need to. They pound it. They get stops on defense. They made Las Vegas look silly. Like the holes they were opening up for Jonathan Taylor, who, by the way, who I think is going to be a stud. Great game on Sunday. You could drive a Mack truck through those holes. They were huge. Like that, Vegas had no chance. Like it was an easy 4, 5, 6 yard running play. If you make the initial tackle, bounce off of that, it's over with. And Vegas had a chance to get back in that game, and they just couldn't get a stop on defense. So, I mean, they have a good defense. They make key stops. They're physical. That's why they beat the Green Bay Packers. And when Phillip Rivers gets enough time to throw the ball and be comfortable, he has just enough guys to make that happen. Not to mention, you already said it, T.Y. Hilton is back, and he is back better than ever. And he was clearly the best receiver on the field on Sunday in that game. 2 touchdowns. If they can have a nice hookup, that's going to be a dangerous offense. They have 3 winnable games to end the year: Houston, Pittsburgh, and Jacksonville. They could win out, go 12-4, and win the AFC South, and get a key home game. So, bumping the Colts. I already said I'm bumping the Raiders. I've given them too many chances. I really wanted to.
I mean, you're bouncing the Raiders.
Did I say bump? Sorry.
You did say
I'm
bump.
Bouncing the Raiders because I've given them way too many opportunities. I wanted them to be good. I wanted to see John Gruden get back in the playoffs. I like Derek Carr, but they got to figure it out on defense. They got to figure out how to win games that they need to win because they're just not there yet.
No. And we're gonna go to the chat box real quick. Former guest James Mistercola wants one of us to talk about the Dan Arnold touchdown catch in Jersey. I'll leave you with that one. I'll let you talk about it.
I don't even know what he's talking about.
The Dan Arnold touchdown catch the other night.
I don't remember it.
I don't think I do either.
James, sorry, I honestly have no clue what you're talking about. So Oh, well, there is updated news from James Misercola. No Henry Ruggs on Thursday Night Football. I don't know if that's going to be much of a difference. I'm not that enthused about the Thursday night game. We'll talk about it for a minute and a few towards the end. Whatever. That game is just fire dumpster fires. But
Yeah.
from the Giants game, I was looking at James's. Okay, I don't know. We're
One more on.
oh
Paul Barker just asked. He said he asked you a few days ago over text. He wants top 3 MVPs in order. Paulie, make sure you stick around for the end because I'm gonna do a little bit of a talk. I'm gonna spoil my last call right now. My last call is about MVPs at the end, so stick around. That's coming up.
that's a tease, Mr. Barker. Stick around. You'll get my answer at some point. I don't even know yet. It's MVP's a mess. I want to hear what Connor has to say first. Homer time. Well, that was Bumper Bounce. We're going to say Bumper Bounce was presented by the Michigan Wolverines for James.
Absolutely not. I object.
All right. Homer time, Connor.
Homer time. All right. I'm going to open this up real quick. There was some stuff that I wanted to mention in my Bumper Bounce, but I kind of wanted to save it for this. All right. So my stat of the day, and this is coming from an article that Mike Sando wrote in The Athletic. Very good in-depth article following the win, for the Bills against the Steelers the other night. So, stat of the day. The Bills this year have now beat San Fran, the LA Rams, Miami Dolphins, and Pittsburgh Steelers this year. All 4 being what most would call elite defenses in the NFL. All right. Allen's stats over those 4 games, obviously, they're 4-0. Mm-hmm. 14 touchdown passes, 2 interceptions, averaging 335 yards per game, and a 121.8 passer rating. Now, he does have 2 fumbles added in with those games, so he has 4 total turnovers in those 4 games, which, yes, not ideal. But 14 touchdown passes, 335 yards per game, and a 121.8 passer rating. It is time to change the dialogue. But that game the other night, I'm going to say for like the 15th time, they are legit. The adjustments that were made at halftime was what really won them the game. I mean, being able to double team the interior rushing, feeding Diggs on quick passes, letting him run wild after the catch. It opens up holes for other plays. I mean, I was texting you the whole time. I was like, oh, man, the second half, I can feel it. Those quick passes. I'm feeling a Diggs double move and single coverage with maybe, and maybe a cover 0 or defense. I can feel that Diggs deep ball. They tried it with Gabe Davis, just a little bit overthrown. But the defense stepped up big. I mean, Levi Wallace, after I gave him a little bit of crap last week where, I kind of want them to draft a corner in the draft this year just because Levi Wallace really wasn't looking like a high-end corner that you can, count on to really stop the majority of passes to the outside because not that many people are throwing at Trey White. But Levi Wallace stepped up. He got thrown at a ton, made a couple great plays, including the pick at the end that really sealed it. He got great body position, didn't draw a flag, made an incredible grab to seal the game. Tremaine Edmonds playing at a high level, explosive motor that we saw last year. Rest of the run defense was absolutely stellar. Defense looked like how it did last year, dominant. And, from the power ranks, this is the second scariest team in the NFL, and I don't even think it's close anymore. They made the Steelers look like little boys, and they're just charging full steam ahead for a division title. Definitely a team that looks like it'll do damage in the playoffs. I couldn't be any more excited. On to Denver. Should be an easy win, but, I could see them going with the same game plan that they had against the Chargers, heavy run. Denver's 9th in pass yards allowed per game with only 222, so pretty decent for a Denver team, but they're towards the bottom of the league in rushing yards allowed per game with 130. So I could definitely see them going to a more run-heavy approach.
Wow, you just called the Pittsburgh Steelers little boys.
They look like little boys. If you're going to dance on the logo, you better go out there and get a win. How about that?
That is directed toward.
Also, I'm not a big TikTok guy. So I didn't even know about this whole Juju thing where he dances on other teams' logos before a game. But apparently there's now a trend going around on TikTok of like a crying Juju Smith-Schuster or something like that. Or there's like a dance making fun of Juju or something like that. I don't know. I'm not in tune with the culture of the TikTokers nowadays. So I was more of a Vine guy. So I kind of boycotted TikTok a little bit. I get them sent to me and I'll watch them, but not a big TikTok guy.
Yeah, just get out of my face. TikTok, bye-bye.
It is what it is.
I'm sure there's something going around that just because that's the internet in 2020, but I like how Josh Allen responded to it. Did you see before they went out of the locker room and he said they can dance, but we're gonna go F and make plays and we're gonna blah. Great.
Said
That's why he's a
talking
leader
like
of men.
dancing. We're gonna go out there and we're gonna do the effing work. I almost actually just swore.
Good job for keeping
We're
it.
trying to keep it clean for the
Yeah,
children.
he would be after us, even though we're not under contract. All right, the New York Giants. I'm gonna keep this simple. I saw this coming. As much as I wanted the New York Giants to win again and shock the world again and get back to a 500 record, well, they'd be close. They'd be 6-7 and lead the NFC East still. I could see it coming. This isn't a team that's going to string together 5-6 wins in a row. It's that simple. They're, the 3 straight wins and the shocking Seattle win. It was just too good to be true. It's a week-to-week league, but like the year is outcome is predictable. It's a week-to-week league, but if you look at the beginning of the season to the end of the season, it's predictable. Everyone overreacts to a big win. We see it all the time. The problem wasn't because Daniel Jones is back and because he may have looked a little unhealthy, but like he was playing his best football in his career before leaving the game against Cincinnati 2 weeks ago. Colt McCoy is not the answer just because they beat Seattle with him under center. The consistent run game and their defense up front pressuring the quarterback is what has won them the last few games. So against Arizona, the offensive line was lost. Absolutely lost. It's like they forgot it was Sunday. Like they had no chance. They gave up 8 sacks. I think they did a little too much partying after beating Seattle last week. 8 sacks, lost 64 yards because of it. They lost 3 fumbles, all from sacks. Only 78 rushing yards. That's been their key the last few weeks. Could not run the football and only had 81 passing yards. And that's with 2 quarterbacks. Hopefully it's a wake-up call heading into the final 3 weeks with now Washington leading the division. All you got to do is tie them and you hold the tiebreaker because they beat them both times. So you got to get a game on Washington. So now you get to play a game on national television, try to take down a playoff team in the Browns on Sunday Night Football. It's the perfect opportunity to right the ship, give yourselves a fighting chance, and I think it would be really huge for this franchise moving forward to beat another playoff team. So
you're not going to mention how I got flexed in the prime time?
What's up?
You're not going to mention how I got flexed
Well, it got flexed. It would have been much more interesting if the Giants won this week, and if the Browns won. But now they're both coming off a loss, so it's huge for both teams actually. So it really is a big game, even though the Giants are. It's tough. Whatever. It's a weird game to be flexed into, but I think it's good for the people. It's good for the league. It'll be interesting. But whatever. I saw it coming. This is just reality setting in. They're not a team that's going to string together that many wins against good teams in a row. They could scrap up a couple here, miraculously make the playoffs, but they're not going to string together another win against a good team. So overreacting. We just can't overreact. Can't overreact on a week-to-week league. So, all right, Connor. That was Homer time. Now we go to where Connor and Cole were right and where they were wrong. You want to start it off? You want to start it off?
I'll start it off. I'll just run through what I was right. So I called the Tennessee blowout. I mean, they kind of scared me at first. They kind of got off to a slow start. They got off to a slow start in the first quarter, but then they just blew up. A.J. Brown had a great day and really is starting to cement himself as a high-end receiver in the NFL. Derrick Henry just kind of did the rest. Washington beating the Niners, exactly what I said was going to happen. The Washington D really shut down the run, forced Mullins to throw, and they made him make mistakes. Some really bad mistakes, had some really bad picks. The game could have been won by Washington by a bigger margin had Alex Smith not went down. We're all hoping it's nothing serious because, his talk about his story all the time. It's unbelievable. But Ron Rivera now, honestly, he's making a push for Coach of the Year candidate now, in my opinion. But that front seven for Washington, we already talked about, it's just dominant. Yep. So called Buffalo beating Pitt. And I forgot there was something I wanted to mention about Pittsburgh too that we had a discussion about after the game on Sunday. That my opinion of what the Pittsburgh Steelers are is they are the knockoff of the knockoff 2019 New England Patriots. So like you have Velveeta, and then you have Kraft, and then you have like the banquet, like 99-cent like freezer meals, or like the knockoff Kid Cuisine almost. And then you have like Walmart brand. The Pittsburgh Steelers are the Walmart brand 2019 New England Patriots. They tried being the 2019 New England Patriots, but they are not the 2019 New England Patriots.
Whoa. I want to go that far. Well, because no, honestly, you don't think that this year's Pittsburgh Steelers could beat last year's New England team?
No.
Okay. I think it'd be a good game.
Because New England's offense was much better. But the way, like, I'm not comparing, like, I mean, I guess in terms, I could be comparing in terms of skill and scheme. Because the way that they're trying to run their, what?
Are you more so comparing the fact that
all they try to do and all they force really is just that quick get the ball out in basically under 2 seconds. But the thing that made New England successful with it is that they had a run game. Pittsburgh doesn't have a run game, and they rely on their defense way too much. Yeah. And New England was really known for their defense, especially because of how good Stephon Gilmore had a year last year. And that people kind of forgot that the New England offense actually wasn't that bad. They were towards the top of the league in rushing yards per game and even passing yards per game.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree with you there. I think the comparison is that they weren't as good as their record showed. Like, because the Patriots, they got off to an 8-0 start. And then
that too, and also just the way that they try and run, like their scheme, everything, what they try and do. And like I said, the main difference is that 2019 Patriots team actually had a run, like they could run the ball. The Pittsburgh team can't, and they just try and do those quick hitters way too much. And it's just like they try and make it look like it's a Tom Brady offense, but it's not a Tom Brady offense.
Yeah, agreed. All right, so, where are you wrong?
Why don't you tell the listeners where you were right first, so I can humble myself.
All right, we'll go with this. I was right on the LA Rams. This team has exactly what it takes to get back to the Super Bowl. I said probably 3-4 weeks ago, I think it was 4 weeks ago, I said I was nervous to put them in there as one of my top teams because of their inconsistency, but I think they have jumped over that hump. Everyone wanted to write them off after scoring only 3 points in Super Bowl 53, losing to Tom Brady and the Patriots, missing the playoffs last year, and they had a one-hit wonder. They're saying Sean McVay is overrated. They won't be able to pay all of their players, and Todd Gurley's gone. They don't have a star running back. Well, this team is the same team minus Todd Gurley plus an extra star on defense in Jalen Ramsey. Todd Gurley has been replaced. They have a few solid running backs, one of them featuring a stud rookie in Cam Akers. He's been hurt, but he's played well the last few weeks. Aaron Donald is one of the best players in the league as a defensive lineman. You don't see that a lot. Like, he leads that team as a defensive lineman. They have a healthy offensive line, one of the healthiest teams across the board in the league overall. They play well. They elevate Jared Goff's game when they give him enough time. He's lethal. You have a lot of playmakers on the outside, and Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, 2 solid tight ends, and they have a nasty defense. It's been underrated for a while. I think over the last couple weeks you've seen where, that under-the-radar defense is taken over. They have a star group of defensive backs, and Thursday night was set up perfectly for them to lose to Belichick and the Patriots on national television. And they absolutely dominated that game from start to finish, up front, all facets of the game. So I'm right there with you on LA Rams all the way, baby. Next one, Connor. Miami covers plus 7.5. Sure, it was a backdoor cover. I mentioned this. It wasn't, it was got lucky at the end there, but it still cashes in. It doesn't matter. Still covered. First quarter was exactly how you and I envisioned it. Dolphins snags a couple turnovers. They had a huge sack. It was like a 20-yard sack. They chased Mahomes and tripped him up inside the 10, and they went up early. The problem with taking a double-digit lead on Kansas City so early is that history seems to tell us that that's when Patrick Mahomes and this team is most comfortable. For some odd reason, you look at the playoffs last year, they were trailed by double digits in all 3 games en route to a Super Bowl, and they dominated the rest of the game once they clicked. Kansas City scored 30 unanswered, but then Miami turned it up. Fourth quarter comeback, and they cover on a field goal. Regardless, it turns out, as expected, And that was without all of their running backs were out, and they lost Devontae Parker early on for the rest of the game. Also, Mike Gesicki, who had 2 more touchdowns, went down. I'm not sure how healthy he is right now, but they're disciplined. They create turnovers, and Tua in this offense seems to get better every week. He takes care of the football. If they get, he's put in a good situation. Brian Flores still running a great ship. You have to feel better after a 6-point loss to Kansas City, and they're still in the playoff spot. And lastly, I had to throw one more in. Back to the Saints-Eagles game. I said a few weeks ago that Taysom Hill stepping in for Drew Brees was the best thing for this team. He's unique and he's special in many ways, and he gets defenses on their heels, and it leads to an efficient offense because he can do so many different things. But it was something that would only work for 3 weeks. I said that, and look what happens. They lose to Philadelphia. Teams can catch on. They limit a quarterback who hasn't had that much experience. I mean, the fact of the matter is he can play quarterback, but he's got to be able to throw better down the field. And I think he can get there. But right now, it's a unique thing that only lasts long. The Eagles were aggressive. They rushed him, made him really uncomfortable a few times. Their offensive line kind of let him down a little bit. So I'll give him a little credit. But they knew it was coming, and they gave him fits all day. A lot of people say to keep riding with Hill through the playoffs, but because Breeze isn't having a great year. But the reality is this team's better with Breeze under center and letting Taysom Hill use his attributes and be in his element where he can, run the ball out of the wildcat, out of the backfield, get handed the ball. He can play tight end. He can go out for a pass, or he can come in and throw a football. So I think it's better for them to have Breeze come back. Let Breeze come back and let Taysom Hill kind of go back to where he was, because I think teams have caught on now. So I was right about that. We'll see what happens moving forward. Where were you wrong, Connor?
Hold on. I wouldn't necessarily say you're right about that just yet because it was 1 week. And you just said you're not going to overreact because it's a week-to-week league.
But I was right. I literally said you can give Taysom Hill 3 weeks and they'll win those 3 games. And then someone's going to catch on. That's exactly what happened. I'm not saying in the big picture I'm going to be right about the whole thing. I was right about that small fact.
So,
I said it would work
let me ask you a question.
And then it wouldn't work after 3.
What gives the Saints a better chance of beating the Chiefs or of winning a game in the playoffs if Breeze gets set back? A Drew Brees at, say, God, since he has like 11 broken ribs, I'll say like a Drew Brees at like 35 to 40%, or a healthy Taysom Hill?
Oh, by far a healthy Taysom Hill. But if Drew Brees is healthy, you need to have him at quarterback and let Taysom Hill do what he's been doing the last couple of years, which he's been very effective at.
Because I still think you firmly need to ride out Taysom Hill just the rest of the regular season. Do not rush Drew Brees back.
You could do that, and that's fine. They're still going to make the playoffs.
And I understand that you want to beat the Chiefs this week, but if Drew Brees isn't 150%, you keep him sitting. You do not want him getting, because I agree with you. I think Drew Brees definitely does give the Saints the best chance at winning, but you can't rush him back, especially not with broken ribs like that. No shot.
No, I don't think so either. I was simply just making the small statement, Connor, that I said it would work for 3 weeks and then they would have a slip up, or like at least someone would catch on and make them uncomfortable. And that's what the Eagles did. That's all I was saying.
However, I am going to say that Taysom Hill is a better passer than Lamar Jackson.
Okay.
Where was I wrong, Cole?
Fair enough. All right, go ahead.
I was wrong about the Giants. You already touched on it. I picked them to win. They didn't. That's it. Humble pie. Listen, I was we were pretty damn right about a lot. But I was wrong about the outcome. I picked Miami to beat Kansas City. But basically everything in the first half, or at least the first quarter, that I said would happen, happened, except for Miami pulling out the win. The offense couldn't get enough points off turnovers. Mahomes and Kansas City completely flipped momentum, and that was the ball game. But for the first quarter and part of the second quarter, the Miami defense made Patrick Mahomes look like a fool. I mean, the way that they were getting to him, I mean, you saw Patrick Mahomes forcing the ball and making plays that you didn't ever see him make this year. Where you kind of saw a panic set in for Mahomes when he was trying to get the ball out. And yeah, there was a couple bad bounces, but still, I mean, just didn't look like a Patrick Mahomes-led offense that we were used to seeing. So, but I was still wrong about the outcome. But I was also wrong about the Saints over Philly. I think it was a miracle win for Philly. I still don't like Hurts. The team around him did not play like that with Wentz. I already mentioned that earlier. Everything from the line to the wide receivers looked better. The Saints defense just played a poor game, but I was wrong in picking them, and apparently you were right about Taysom Hill. So humble pie, humble pie.
All right. I was wrong about Jalen Hurts in this fact. I'll admit I was wrong about him and his ability to win a game in the NFL. I love the guy. The career he had in college was a great story. He's a stud QB at Alabama, gets benched in the national title game to Tua, and he has to watch Tua win a title for the Tide. Comes back a year later as a backup to Tua, but he delivers the game-winning drive in the SEC title game when Tua goes down. Then he transfers to Oklahoma, leads them into the college football playoff, and he's the Heisman runner-up. Great talent, great character, very humble kid. I just didn't seem like a starting quarterback in the NFL, and that's why I think I've had so much pushback on benching Carson Wentz for Jalen Hurts. So I'll admit I was wrong on his ability to win a game, but because he did that on Sunday against the Saints. What I will not admit in being wrong, Connor, is the fact that this is the best decision for the Philly franchise moving forward. It's not. I don't like benching a QB that you're paying $128 million for. I think it's false hope and an overreaction to a win that was destined to happen because the Saints had no idea what they were getting. They're caught standing still and a lot of uncertainty. Can he continue to win games for a long period? I'm not sure. That's the next step forward. You can prove me wrong if you can win a couple more games. If the Eagles win out, I'm dead wrong. I'll admit it. So I'll take half wrong on this. Can I do that? Can I give myself a half a point?
I guess you just don't want a slice of the whole humble pie. I guess you could just take a half a slice.
I will. I was wrong on the short term in a one-game scenario. I don't think I'll be wrong long term. So we'll go with that. But I was wrong on this. I was wrong on the Washington football team. Wrong again. They win it again. I bounced them out of the NFC East a long time ago, probably 3-4 weeks ago when the Giants beat them for the second time. I thought there was no way in heck this is happening. They've now shocked everyone with 3 very complete games they put together, mostly being on defense, and then the offense makes it happen when they need to. I should have just known, Connor, that that this would happen. Sports creates fantastic stories. And this year, the story might just be that Alex Smith overcomes a serious leg injury, being the comeback player of the year in the NFL, and leads Washington to the playoffs in the first year where the team doesn't have a name. It's like inevitable. Like I should have known. I should have just known that would happen. And it would happen to the Giants because everything bad happens to the Giants. They've created a mean defensive front. They got Chase Young. He's a star already. And they have an offense that's sneaky good in certain situations, and they're now the front runners in the NFC East. So it's theirs to lose, and I was wrong on the Washington football team. I'll take that one. That's a full point off. Full
Slice of the humble pie.
All right, real quick before our last call, Thursday night football game, Connor, we got the LA Chargers, who finally managed to win a close football game, and the Las Vegas Raiders, who have just completely let people down week in, week out, can't cover the spread. They just fired the defensive coordinator. We're in the playoff picture. No, they're not. Who do you got on Thursday?
I'm calling just full collapse of the Vegas Raiders.
Okay.
So I'm taking a Chargers. Granted, I've taken the Chargers, I think, in the last 4 weeks. And I've called for a Justin Herbert bounce back game, and we haven't seen the Justin Herbert in the last 4 or 5 weeks that we saw earlier in the year when he first kind of took the league by storm. So, I mean, I think it's bound to happen. I mean, we saw a lot of good things from Justin Herbert, and I think with a Vegas defense that's down right now, without a full-time defensive coordinator, defense is playing like buns right now. I think it's a perfect storyline leading up to a breakout, good, really solid bounce back game for Justin Herbert.
Yeah, this could go one of two ways. The line is set at -3.5 Vegas right now. I would be very, very intrigued to take LA Chargers +3.5 right now because this is a team that has a lot of talent that has just have been very bad in situations, and that's what you've talked about in the coaching ability of Anthony Lynn. They've lost a lot of games because of bad coaching or just missed opportunities. They have their quarterback. They have a lot of talent around it. They just got to put it together. Maybe they win a few games to end this year, and that just takes them into a playoff picture team next year. It's possible. I would definitely think about taking it. I don't know. It's either going to go that way or Vegas is going to pop out of its shell once again and blow everyone away again. It's like,
Yeah, I could easily see it going one of two ways as well. But
I think right now, if I'm going with my gut right now, I'm taking Chargers. At least taking them plus 3.5, maybe losing by a last-minute field goal. But I don't know.
I was gonna say, because I could see that line being perfect where the Chargers get the ball back with like a minute 20, down by like 1 or 2, and then Michael Badgley set up for like a 37-yard field goal and he shanks it. And then
but you still cover.
Yeah, I could see that happening.
Perfect scenario. I'm going with it.
But hey, you kind of touched on it, and you're right or wrong. I'm going to switch it up this week. I'm going to let you continue what you're talking about, right or wrong, and close this out. I'll let you go first.
All right. Okay. Here we go.
Sorry to spring that on you.
No, it's fine. Last call. Here we go. So, I'm going to make the claim that Sunday's win for the Philadelphia Eagles was the worst thing possible for this organization. There's things that are replaceable, Connor. You know, you got your toys, there's TV shows, there's reality stars, there's dances, TikTok. We talked about it. It's going to be replaceable. There are things in life that are people overreact to, they get real excited about, and then it fades out. Nobody remembers it anymore. There's a point where it's not unique anymore. Unique works for a certain amount of time. It's temporary. Means it doesn't last forever. That's what temporary means. The biggest toy or the technology advanced toy of the world that's on the internet, it's the biggest thing in the world for weeks, maybe months, and then something comes better. Something along the way comes. You were all dancing and doing hit the quan, the stanky leg, the whip, mannequin challenge for some time before something else came along. People got bored of it. It wasn't a big thing anymore. There are times, though, when you try to replace something way too quickly and something works and there's an overreaction. So it goes one of two ways. Say a company is in shambles. They've been in the dust for months, years. Something works and there's an overreaction. So there's a company in shambles. They move on from their manager or their CEO. They get replaced with another person. They do one thing right and it's, oh my God, we got the right one. That's not going to fix something right away. It's not going to fix something that's been going under for months or years. People overreact and they overreach for things. Same goes for the NFL. Unique works. It worked for Tim Tebow for a little bit. As I said earlier, I'm not going to go too long-term on this, but it worked for Taysom Hill for 3 weeks. Then you have a bad week. Can he bounce back? I don't know. It also takes time to replace and rebuild. So fans in the media were calling for Carson Wentz's head for weeks. Carson Wentz stinks. Get him out of here. People also forget that they made Carson Wentz their franchise quarterback by drafting him second and pretty much claiming he was their franchise quarterback and paying him $128 million over the next 4 years. You make a change on Carson Wentz, you trade him, you eat more than half of that money in dead cap space. What does that do for you? When the Eagles made the change that Jalen Hurts at quarterback, I wasn't convinced. I pushed back a lot. I just wasn't sure where they were going with it. If they wanted to see Jalen Hurts, bring him in for a couple plays here and there. I thought it was okay to bring him in that Green Bay game. But then they make him the starter. He starts one game, and he beats the Saints, who don't know what they're going to get. They're flat-footed. They're uncertain. They're confused on defense because they've never seen him before. They have no film on him. Now Doug Peterson has named Jalen Hurts the starter for Week 15. That came out today. And I can't tell you how badly Jalen Hurts winning the one football game is going to hurt this franchise. If he goes out and wins another game or two, now you have to start all over. You rethink, and you spend the entire offseason wondering what to do about the quarterback situation. And what does that take time away from? Building around the quarterback, which is the problem. They don't have anybody around them. Their offensive line stinks. Their defense stinks. They don't have playmakers. Travis Fulgham was their leading receiver for 8 weeks. The guy played D2 ball and was Carson Wentz's biggest target. I said it twice. I'll say it again. Carson Wentz has to walk into work every day seeing a statue of Nick Foles, who took a Super Bowl MVP right away from him. There's one. Had his team draft a second-round quarterback, putting more pressure on his back. He feels pressure. He gets it from the media every day. He gets asked every day after practice if he's worried about his job. How is someone going to produce for your team? Whether he's in Philly or not, Carson Wentz will be back. And if the Eagles make the change for Hurts next season, based off of one win, maybe 2 if he gets another one, you will be deadly mistaken because unique doesn't last long. It doesn't last long in pop culture. It doesn't last long in the NFL. He'll be figured out using his feet. He's not as quick and shifty as Lamar Jackson, and he's not an elite passer by any means. It's going to create a low ceiling on their offense, and they'll be scurrying to find yet another quarterback in the next couple of years. Last call.
Back-to-back shows now where we both did something about Carson Wentz and the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yes, because this is going to be a travesty.
I think we did back-to-back shows where we went with the Patriots. Now back-to-back shows we went with the Eagles. So our brains are kind of working alike here.
Well,
but no, I agree. I mean, I didn't really think of it like that initially, but now that you bring it up, I mean, it's just going to be another roadblock of trying to build a competent football team.
Yeah, and I think
front office, and it's
there's just too much going on that they need to worry about that doesn't concern Jalen Hurts, I think, in this situation. You need to
and also the thing
and you build around him. That's been the problem.
Is at the same time, you kind of got to feel for Jalen Hurts because he's probably going to, if he gets named the starter, he's going to end up in the same exact situation that Carson Wentz was in with nobody around him. Because they're either going to still have Wentz on the books or not going to be on his team, and they're going to be eating up half of that giant contract, and they're not going to have money to dish out to get in more talent. So it's just going to be it's a long door. It's a cycle.
It's going to take away their opportunity to build around, get draft picks, sign free agents, because they're going to spend all their time worrying about who their quarterback's going to be when they have the man standing right in front of them. Go ahead, Connor. We told Paul Barker to stick around for this one, so here you go.
I hope he's still in here. This one's for you, Paulie. All right, so we're closing in on the end of the season, which is going to spark debate about end of the year awards. Biggest one, obviously MVP. So, what is an MVP? Obviously, the most valuable player. This does not mean who had the best stats all year, because if that were the case, Patrick Mahomes would probably win that MVP trophy for the next 10 years. Excuse me. But I do think do I think he's the NFL's most valuable player? No. Why? Because he has an unreal amount of talent around him. Tyreek Hill, fastest guy in the NFL. We know what he can do. We saw what him and Mahomes did against Tampa. You throw the ball 50 yards downfield, he's going to run under it. He's going to grab it, and he's going to go to the house. Mecole Hardman, almost the same type of guy. He's kind of like a Tyreek clone, and he's one of the best return guys in the league. Sammy Watkins, still a solid wide receiver. When they need to run the ball, they have a young man named Clyde Edwards-Helaire who's going to turn into a solid lead back in the near future, I think. On top of that, also Le'Veon Bell. Is he the same Le'Veon Bell in years past? No, but he's still Le'Veon Bell. He can still get the job done. So that's 2 decent backs as well. Oh, and did I fail to mention this guy named Travis Kelce, some tight end who's leading the league in receiving yards? That's right, a tight end leading the league in receiving yards. They got him too. You take Patrick Mahomes off that team and you replace him with an average QB, they're still one of the most dominant and one of the most scariest offenses in the NFL. It's a fact. It is a fact. With what is around Patrick Mahomes, it just makes him that much better. So, valuable to me is irreplaceable. Mahomes on KC, replaceable. Guys who are irreplaceable their teams. Aaron Rodgers, and this is no order. Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Josh Allen, Derrick Henry. You take any of those guys off their respective teams, they are not anywhere close to the same team that they are. Allen, to me, is the closest thing on this list to an exception because he has Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, John Brown, who has, missed a little bit of time, Gabe Davis, a great defense. All right, they have two reliable running backs that haven't really hit their strides this year. They're both young, but it's okay. But they still have a lot of other good pieces on offense. But the thing that's different here is we saw what the Bills' offense is like when Allen wasn't performing how he is this year. Trash. Absolute trash. The offense was unbearable to watch at times last year. Now that he's figured out how to be successful in the NFL, he is an MVP candidate, 110%. And no, I'm not being biased because Rodgers, to me, he really only has Devontae Adams and then Aaron Jones. But with Devontae Adams, it's why his numbers are ridiculous this year. It's because he lost some talent. And we saw what the Packers are like when he's not there last year with injury. Seattle without Wilson would be a catastrophe. We see what happens when Russell Wilson isn't playing up to his game. They lose. And it's a bad football team when Russell Wilson isn't carrying that team. And Tennessee runs their offense around Derrick Henry because he is the best back in the NFL. Without him, they have nothing except really good wide receivers and no one to consistently feed them the ball. The elite running game they have is what makes Ryan Tannehill a good quarterback, and that is because of Derrick Henry, because he can carry that load of the offense. So an MVP to me is not about stats. It is about value to the team. Patrick Mahomes is a generational talent, don't get me wrong. He is one of the best football players in the NFL. One of the best. But is he an MVP this year? If I had to hand in my ballot, my order right now, Rodgers 1, Derrick Henry 2, Josh Allen 3. And that could change throughout the rest of the year. But right now, if you had to ask me, I'd go Rodgers, Henry, Allen, last call.
You've got my wheels spinning a bit, Connor Priester.
That's what the last call is supposed to do there, guy.
You got my wheels spinning, and I can't say that I can argue that. Those top three, I would fully jump on board there.
And listen, because I want to talk a little bit about this as well. We've been doing this show since, well, me and you talking about this. I know that you did this a little with Kyle and Chris beforehand, but me and you have been talking about sports and having the show since what, 2016, 2017? Every single year when we talk about pro sports, this is one of my main points of emphasis. And this is something that drives me nuts, absolutely nuts, is that I always talk about this MVP debate. Mm-hmm. And if leagues get it right or wrong. But I think this year, it's so much more up for debate because you see a guy like Mahomes and people instantly want to go, best player in the NFL, he deserves MVP. No, I do not think he does. I don't think he is the most valuable player in the NFL.
I think when it gets misconstrued and it goes the way that you don't think it should go, I think that is the NFL falling into the trap of who's the most flashy / gets you, brings in revenue / fun to watch. That's where I think the NFL falls into that. So,
yeah, and it shouldn't be. It should never be about politics.
And it should not. But in the NFL's eyes, that's where they're coming. That's why they promote Patrick Mahomes. That's why the Chiefs are on prime time almost every other week. So that's where that comes from. But when it comes to your argument, I completely agree. It's if you take this player away from this team, it's different. You can make the argument that Aaron Donald could be in the running for MVP.
110%.
The Rams don't have Aaron Donald to plug up the middle and force offensive lines to go towards him and to take him out of the play and go the other way. The Rams defense is completely different. I would put him in a top probably 6 to 7 range. And that's something you would never think of because he plays on the defensive line. You can't even.
I think the other thing too is you need to shy away from always giving the MVP to a quarterback.
Yeah, that's.
Which is why I'd love to see Derrick Henry get it.
I think that would be fair. Yeah.
Like you can make cases for so many different guys too. It's like you could almost make the case for Stephon Diggs. Because maybe that's what's making Allen better, Stephon Diggs. Or you could even make the case for Devontae Adams.
Yeah. Because if you take Devontae Adams out of Packers.
Different team. 110% different team.
Completely different team. Yep.
Who do you have? Robert Tonyan? Marcus Valdez-Scantling, who, I mean, he's a good receiver, but he doesn't put together consistent weeks.
And those are the guys that give the case for Aaron Rodgers because Aaron Rodgers makes them look 10 times better.
Yeah.
So that's where there's a lot of different angles you could take. But I agree. You got to look at it, and it's kind of got to be like the WAR stat in baseball. It's kind of like if if they're on the field and you're making a difference to your football team. So I agree, Connor, and I it's going to be interesting. I'm still pulling for Russell Wilson too. I want him to be in the top 3 because
he was 110% mine. I mean, I was bumping him every week, but I mean, the way that he's been playing, it's like
Giants game. It was because the Giants just you got to give credit to their defensive line because they made him just look silly, and it wasn't even really his fault. So take that game away, and Russell Wilson is still top 3 easy. But yeah. I think that's it.
Probably the longest Tuesday show I think we've had. We're going on about an hour and a half now.
Yeah. So. A lot of stuff to talk about, but thank you for joining us. If you stuck around, we'll be back hopefully on Friday. I'm actually going to be back in New York by Friday. I'm coming back to New York on Thursday, so I'll be back and I'll have my home setup this time. I won't have a little quote here and a picture back here. It's going to be more of my sports set on my desk. Hopefully I got to move it around a little bit, Connor, but yeah, join us on Friday and we're going to have 1, maybe 2 people on. You'll see for our Beyond the Box Score Call to the Pen. We got a lot more to get through, but a big week this week in the NFL. Hopefully we have another good week, but we'll recap that, preview it on Friday. Connor, great speaking to you.
Absolutely. One of a kind, Cole Johnson. One of a kind.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.
All right, everybody. So long. See you later this week.